It has been 10 years since 6-year-old Timothy Pitzen vanished after being picked up from school in Aurora, Illinois, by his mother, Amy Pitzen. She took her young son on a 3-day, 500-mile road trip, stopping at various amusements and water parks, before ending her own life in a motel room in Rockford, Illinois. She had left behind a chilling suicide note which warned that Timothy would never be found. A decade has passed since then and there has still been no sign of Timothy. Timothy Pitzen was born on the 18th of October 2004, and was the only child of James Pitzen and Amy Pitzen. Since 2006, the family lived in the 400 block of North Highland Avenue located in Aurora, Illinois. Timothy was very outgoing and was said to always be smiling. He loved going to the park and the zoo with his family as well as eating pizza and McDonald's playlands.
Extrovert type of person.
Oh yeah, get along with everybody, running down the street, always happy, always fun to be around, always looking for the next adventure.
Recollected his father, Jim Pitzen. On the 11th of May 2011, James dropped Timothy off at his kindergarten class at Greenman Elementary School. Shortly thereafter, Amy arrived at the school and checked Timothy out, citing a family emergency. According to Timothy's family, however, there was no family emergency.
Yeah, well I dropped Timothy off of school and I took Amy to work that morning and I went home.
You took her to work?
Yeah, she had suffered from vertigo and the day before she had a bad vertigo attack and was stumbling around and I'm like, well, I don't want you driving, just want you to make sure that you're safe, and I took her to work.
So other than vertigo that morning, was she behaving unusually?
Just tired. It's just, I mean, she'd acted like that and she had a attack of vertigo. She'd be like tired, a little irritable, but didn't seem nothing out of the ordinary.
Amy had not taken her antidepressant medication that morning and she had attempted suicide at least once in the past. Police spokesman Dan Firelli would state during a press conference that it wasn't uncommon for Amy to take off somewhere without warning. However, she had never taken Timothy with her beforehand. When Timothy and Amy were reported missing by James, their names were immediately added into a database which notified thousands of police departments across the nation. Missing person posters were distributed for the missing mother and son duo. They described Timothy as standing at around 4 feet 2 inches tall, weighing around 70 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. He was last seen wearing green shorts, a t-shirt, tennis shoes and a Spider-Man backpack. They also described Amy as standing at around 5 feet 10 inches tall, weighing around 180 pounds with brown hair and brown eyes. 3 days later, there was an unexpected update in the case when it was announced that Amy's body had been discovered inside the bathroom of a Rockford motel room. She had slit her wrists and left behind a note which ominously read that Timothy was safe, that he was being cared for by somebody who loved him and that he would never be found. Timothy was nowhere to be found and there was no evidence that he was ever in the motel room. An investigation would uncover that after checking Timothy out of school, Amy had taken him to the Brookfield Zoo and then checked into the Key Lime Cove Resort in Gurnee, a lavish hotel and water park costing over $150 per night. The following night, she had checked into the Kalahari Resort in Wisconsin Dells. Much like the Key Lime Cove, this too was an expensive hotel with its own water park. Surveillance footage from the hotel would capture Amy and Timothy checking out the following morning. This was the last image of Amy and Timothy together. The following morning, Amy called and sent a number of text messages to certain family members and friends excluding James, informing them that she and Timothy were fine. During one phone call, a relative spoke with Timothy and said that he sounded okay. However, according to a relative who spoke with Amy, they had heard Timothy in the background saying that he was hungry. These phone calls were placed as Amy was driving south on Interstate 39 and west on Interstate 88, heading towards Sterling, located around 80 miles west of Aurora. Amy was then seen alone at a Family Dollar in Winnebago, Illinois, where she purchased paper, pens and envelopes. Around half an hour later, surveillance footage captured her alone at Sullivan Foods, located on 70 North Elisa Street in Winnebago, where she bought milk and crackers. She then checked herself into the Rockford Inn, located on 3909 11th Street, Rockford, at some point between 11:15 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. that night. Her body would be found by a maid the following afternoon at around 12:30 p.m. Investigators were able to track Amy's cell phone calls and credit card receipts as far as Racine, Wisconsin, Sterling, Illinois, and Johnson Creek, Wisconsin. They also trawled through surveillance footage and spoke to witnesses who came across Amy and Timothy during their road trip. They were left with thousands of miles of open land between the motel where Amy took her life and the furthest location she was known to be. They would admit that they didn't have any clues which could pinpoint them in a direction to focus their search. In a bid to uncover some leads, investigators would send dust, plants and other material found underneath Amy's blue Ford Expedition to scientists at Microtrace. Based on sediments and plant material, the scientists would collude that the Ford Expedition had been stopped for an unknown period of time on a wide gravel shoulder or a gravel road which was located either next to, or very near to, an asphalt secondary road which had been treated with glass road marking beads. They were also able to determine that near this road, the Ford Expedition then backed onto a grassy meadow or field to a spot that was nearly treeless. They found that there were birch and oak trees in the general vicinity but not directly over the location where the Ford Expedition had stopped. There were Queen Anne's lace and black mustard plants growing in a row nearby. According to the scientists, the area where the Ford Expedition had stopped was not in a residential lawn or park, and there was a strong likelihood that there was a pond, a small stream or a creek in the area. No corn pollen was found, which enabled them to narrow the search down even further. Scientists further believed that the area where the Ford Expedition stopped was most likely located in northwestern Illinois, with Lee and Whiteside counties as the most likely locations. However, Carroll, Ogle, Stevenson and Winnebago counties could not be ruled out. With such a detailed description of where Amy had stopped her SUV, investigators released this information to the public, hoping that somebody somewhere could recognize the description of the area. They encouraged people to check their own land or any surrounding land for any kind of evidence, such as Timothy's Spider-Man backpack, several toys, and a tube of toothpaste that Amy had purchased for Timothy during the trip. Since the disappearance, there have been a number of theories as to what happened to Timothy. Inside Amy's Ford Expedition, it was noticed that Timothy's child seat and Spider-Man backpack were absent, leading to hope that Amy could have dropped Timothy off with a friend. However, investigators had also considered that Amy, who had a history of depression, gave Timothy to somebody with the false story that he was in danger. There was also unavoidable speculation that Amy could have killed her son before killing herself. A decade has passed since that fateful road trip and Timothy still remains missing. Investigators continue to pursue every lead that comes in, including the periodic calls from people who believe that they are Timothy or believe that they have spotted Timothy. In fact, in 2019, a man came forward and claimed that he was Timothy. DNA testing, however, proved otherwise, and the man would admit that it was a cruel hoax.
Meanwhile, the DNA test that was the buccal swab that had been extracted from him was submitted from the FBI to the Hamilton County Coroner's Office, which was able to turn around a quick analysis of that swab and comparison of that DNA to the DNA of Timothy Pitzen's parents indicated that the person in question was not, in fact, Timothy Pitzen.
What started out as a pleasant impromptu vacation transformed into a horrendous detour from which Timothy has never emerged. Every 2 years, the National Center for Missing and Exploited releases an updated age progression image showing what Timothy could possibly look like now. These images are an important tool in the mission to help bring Timothy home. His family still cling on to the hope that one day, they will uncover the truth of what happened to him. They firmly believe that Amy would never have harmed her son.
Knowing in my heart that he is absolutely alive, 200%. I know that he's out there. We just have to find him.
Thank you so much for watching the whole video. If you had fun or learned anything, do me a favor, like, subscribe, comment, share.